an entitled old man steals our belongings out from underneath us after we placed our items on a lounge chair at a resort that we were staying at. And despite our several attempts to try and retrieve our belongings, this entitled old man pretended like he didn't know what was going on, forcing us to get the resort manager involved just to find a solution. Here's what happened. So first I want to say that this happened during the month of April. Me and my family had gone to this resort near the beach side. Now the way that the resort worked was that it split into various buildings. There was building 1200, 1100, and 1000, and the rooms in building 1000 were much more luxurious and expensive, being larger and nearer to the sea, while the rooms in building 1200 were much more affordable, but smaller as well. My family booked a room somewhere around 1100, which wasn't too shabby. It had access to a small river-like pool leading to the main public pool. So one day we decided to go for a swim and made our way to the public pool. After a while of swimming, we decided to make our way back via the pool back to our room. So we brought our towels and accessories, like a super soaker and some goggles, and made our way slowly towards our room. Unfortunately though, midway through, I cut my leg on a decorative rock that they had in the pool, and my legs started to bleed and ache like crazy. So my mom decided to help bring me to our room, since I had difficulty doing so. She left our towels and other items on 2 beach chairs just at the edge of the pool, just so she wouldn't have to carry it at the same time as bringing me back to the room. My mom eventually made her way back to the spot that she had placed her items at, only to find our belongings dumped on the ground. And sitting on the chairs were our suspects. One of them was an older man, and the other was a teenager or young adult next to him. They were about 18 years old, and presumably they were this older man's son. So my mom decided to confront them, and as a result, an argument developed within seconds. My mom said, "Excuse me, why are you sitting here? And why have our belongings been dumped on the ground?" The old man chimes in and says, "They were taking up the seat. Please leave, this is private property." Now, it's really important to note that the chair nor the area it was taking up was private property in the slightest. There was a footpath behind them which broke off the path to lead to a room, which was presumably theirs, but the footpath itself was still for anyone to use, let alone the chairs. So my mom responded by saying, "This is not private property. Why did you dump our belongings on the ground?" But the old man wasn't having it. He just kept screaming, "This is private property. Leave." But my mom repeated herself again. She said, "This is not private property, and if you don't answer me, I will contact the hotel staff." The old man still continues to insist that this is private property, with her tone getting more aggressive as time went on. My mom decided it wasn't worth the effort to fight back, so she just snatched up our belongings and left for our room. When she came back, she hung up the towels and went to dry off our accessories. And that's when she realized that one of the goggles that we had bought was completely missing. So she decided to make her way back and recount her steps in hopes that she dropped them on the way unknowingly. Eventually, she made her way to the beach chairs where the old man was lying down with his son. My mom continued her search, and right when she showed up, this old man said again that this is private property and she needs to leave right away. My mom said, "I'm looking for something. Have you seen any goggles around here?" But the entitled old man was completely unhelpful, as he just repeated that he hasn't seen anything and that she needs to leave because this is private property. Now, another thing that's important to note is that the old man's son apparently seemed to hate him, looking away when he was spitting out the nonsense about private property, and just seemed incredibly embarrassed in general. My mom was irritated and decided to leave frustrated, coming to the conclusion that it would be easier to make a complaint to the resort staff. She made her way to the lobby and asked one of them to tell the old man that the seats he was claiming were his were in fact public property, and to also help find the lost goggles. The staff seemed very unconcerned, however, telling her that they would do it despite immediately going back to other tasks and paying her no mind. So she decided to speak to a manager who she actually knew for quite a while, since she would often have to discuss business dealings with them as a representative of her workplace. So the manager came out, and this was a tall individual, and my mom told him the story. So the resort manager followed my mom over to the seats and told the old man to stop insisting the property was his, since it clearly was not. The entitled old man, seeing that he had no chance of winning this, made his way back to his room, all while grumbling under his breath in anger. And while this guy was finally put in his place, my mom still had not found the goggles. However, when the entitled old man's son trailed behind his dad back to their room, my mom noticed he was carrying a small cloth bag that, among other things, had 2 pairs of goggles identical to ours. So she went up and knocked on the doors of their room, with the resort manager right behind her, with the entitled old man answering the door. My mom looks at this old man and says to him straight up, "Why do you have our goggles?" The old man said, "I don't know what you mean. I didn't take anything." But my mom says, "That bag," pointing at the cloth bag sitting on the bed behind him, "that bag has our goggles in it." The entitled old man said, "I don't know what you mean. Stop accusing me of stuff." Thankfully, the resort manager stepped in and said to this guy, "If you do not show us the bag, I will have to make make a missing items report. The entitled old man grumbled a bit and hesitantly walked towards the bag. He left the door open wide enough for my mom and the resort manager to walk in. They surrounded the bag and lo and behold, the goggles she was looking for were sitting comfortably at the top of the bag. My mom grabbed her goggles, her blood practically boiling at the attempted theft of her things. And these goggles, by the way, were not cheap. They were relatively pricey for goggles. The resort manager was frowning and was threatening to make a police report. The old man, of course, begged him not to, spewing some nonsense about finding it on the ground and taking it because nobody claimed it, which is still illegal, by the way, and also a horrible excuse. However, I think the resort manager didn't want to go through the hassle of submitting a police report, so he and my mom made their way out of the room. And with all things considered, it kind of hurts knowing that this entitled old man was more than happy to steal in front of his son and how much he seemed to think that the world revolved around him. But thankfully, we got our belongings back, and that weird entitled old man got put in his place. Your mom is a superhero. She literally would not let this go, and she was not about to have some weird entitled jerk take her belongings in the first place. And the thing is, not to mention this guy's poor attitude, but the way he was acting in general and how dismissive he was of the situation pretty much made it impossible to work with him and find any kind of solution. If he was just honest and said, "Oh, here it is, I found it on the ground," or something along those lines, this all could have been solved so quickly. So if anything, at least this guy learned a valuable lesson that you can't go around and steal other people's things. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My partner's grandma who lives with us is violating almost every boundary that I've put in place, and it's seriously suffocating and I really don't know what to do. So to start off, I want to say that I feel so suffocated at this point that I'm legitimately close to having a mental breakdown. I'm a 31-year-old female and I started dating my partner a couple of years ago, and it started off as long distance, and recently I moved to his country. I spent over $10,000 on a visa. I went back to school here for 9 months to get certified in healthcare work, and I am now working full-time. Basically, I did everything right and by the book. Unfortunately, there is a housing shortage here, and me, my boyfriend, his mom, and his grandparents were all forced to chip in and move into a house together. It is extremely crowded. As an extreme introvert with severe social anxiety who lived alone for the past 10 years, it's become an absolute nightmare situation for me, but I just grit and bear it because we don't have any other choice. Now, I might have been able to stand it if his grandma wasn't completely bombarding me non-stop, and this is incessantly at all hours of the day. I literally cannot leave my room without a sudden barrage of questions as well as weird comments. She would say things like, "Your milk is expiring in 4 days. Did you know that? It's gonna be hot this week. The humidity is gonna be 80% and it's raining on Friday. The humidity is what's really gonna get you though. How do you check the weather?" And it goes on and on and on. Absolutely endless. And 99% of the time, it's stupid stuff that does not need to be communicated with me. It's like a nightmare, endless stream of useless thoughts. People have told her nicely to stop, but she just won't do it. It's gotten to the point where I just stay in my bedroom unless I absolutely have to go out because I have such massive anxiety about being totally bombarded the second I leave my room. I can't even wake up and make a coffee in the morning without knowing my social battery is about to be drained to absolute zero, and this is going to happen immediately. Like, I'm clearly not even fully awake and I get completely bombarded, and if I don't respond, she'll just aggressively repeat what she said until I respond or shame me for not wanting to talk. I have bad anxiety about using the bathroom now too, because the second I go to use it, she'll come through the hole and start doing laundry less than a foot from the bathroom door, and the walls are paper thin. It's like I get to the bathroom and I'm not even sat down yet, but I have to just leave the bathroom for another hour until she's done so I can use it in peace. I feel like an absolute prisoner in my own home. She's also taken to invading our bedroom when we're at work and trying to tidy up, which I am absolutely not okay with. I am in my 30s. I'm not related to this woman. I don't want her violating my personal space and going through my belongings. I've also had to buy a lock for my laundry basket because we've asked her several times not to do my laundry when I'm out, but she does it anyways. I absolutely do not want this woman touching my underwear or handling any of my clothes. Whenever she does that, I put it back in the laundry basket anyways because I have mild OCD and I can't wear clothes that some random woman has been handling without my permission. It feels so violating. In fact, multiple people have asked her to stop going into other people's rooms, but she feels entitled to it because she sees us, an adult couple, as children whose boundaries are just optional for her to respect. All that being said, I've brought up these issues with my partner multiple times, and he refuses to even listen at this point because he sees her as this sweet old lady who's just trying to help. It's like as long as her intentions are good, she's allowed to continuously violate me and my boundaries and push me closer to a mental breakdown, and I'm just not allowed to mention how much it's affecting me because that makes me a negative, ungrateful jerk. The other day, she was bombarding everyone the second they woke up, and he mentioned it in the group chat that we have with his mom and his sister. She did the same thing to me when I woke up, so I messaged him privately, and I said to him, yeah, she did the same thing to me when I got up too. And he started going, she's old, give her a break. I told him I'm allowed to be annoyed by someone violating my boundaries, just like he was annoyed this morning too. And he told me, you need to stop complaining. It is what it is. Just drop the whole violating your boundaries thing. I don't want to be made to feel like I should have a problem with it when you're the only one who has a problem with it. And then he told me, just talk to a professional if it's affecting your mental health. When he said this, I was beyond horrified, and I am still horrified that he thinks the solution to my boundaries not being respected is for me to go pay a therapist to try and get over it, as if the one making me feel so violated in my own home isn't the problem. But no, I'm the one that has to suck it up and go seek mental health help so that she's free to violate me whenever she wants. It just feels so backwards, and I feel like I can't breathe in this place. This is my own home that's supposed to feel like a sanctuary where I can go and be at peace, but I haven't felt a single moment of peace since I moved in here because she never leaves, and she never gives me a moment of space if I leave my room. It is an absolute nightmare at this point. I'm not sure what I'm looking for with this. Maybe just some validation because I feel like I'm going crazy. Moving out isn't an option either because there aren't any homes left. They've all been bought out by foreign investors and turned into Airbnbs. And moving back home to my country isn't an option either because I'm not willing to move back to my country, especially with all of the political upheavals that have been happening. I'm just so close to having a breaking point though, and I'm sick of being made out to be the bad guy for desperately asking for the most basic human boundaries to be respected in the slightest. But this woman feels entitled to just act however she wants with no respect to anyone else in the home, and she gets away with it because her intentions are good. What should I do? First and foremost, there's always an option somewhere. That's like the first thing I realized when I finally became an adult. There's always another option. And so if your partner was to treat you like garbage, and if the rest of the house wants to ignore this lady not respecting your boundaries, then I think it's time to start finding another place to live. And sure, I hear you. You're telling me that there's no other place to live because everything's getting grabbed by Airbnb. I get it. But I would like to at least think that you can at least find a roommate somewhere and at least find some way of getting out of that house. Maybe check with work. Maybe check with, like, I don't know, a local church or something. Somewhere, someone has to have some kind of bed that you can sleep on and find some kind of peace. If I was in that situation, I would absolutely be doing that at day one. If this lady was rummaging through my stuff, as well as being just super annoying, I would be losing my mind. And honestly, the questions and the weird comments wouldn't personally bother me that much, but it's the fact that she's going into my private space. She's invading my room just to try and clean it up and rummage through it. He is incredibly inappropriate. And how can your boyfriend seriously not see where you're coming from? You moved to another country for him. You spent 9 months at school just to get certified in healthcare. Like, that is unfair in the slightest for him not to see where you're coming from. The other option you could really consider is maybe taking things into your own hands. And what I mean by that is just stop being nice. Like, don't be cordial, don't be polite, because clearly this lady just doesn't respect your boundaries. Maybe being just a little bit more forward with what you do want will hopefully make this lady stop talking to you, leave you alone, and allow you to have some kind of space to yourself. But regardless of what you do, hopefully it all gets worked out, because not only is this grandma incredibly obnoxious, but also your boyfriend should be ashamed of himself, and he should be way more accommodating to what you're currently going through emotionally and mentally. I just found out that my girlfriend is 20 weeks pregnant, and her parents want me to sign away my rights to my child because they don't want me involved with this baby in the slightest, and I seriously don't know what to do. So we recently found out that my girlfriend is about 20 weeks pregnant. She has an IUD, and her cycles haven't been the same since, if you know what I mean. So she didn't think anything of missing a few. Her parents hated me before this, and obviously it's only gotten worse now. I don't have the best history. I went to juvie and I definitely have bad grades, but ever since I've been with my girlfriend for almost a year, things have gotten a lot better. We've had less fights and less substances of any kind. I've been sober for around 7 months and also been with my foster parents for 8 months, which is the longest I've been kept around. I actually don't mind them. They want to help me be a good dad, and my foster dad has been letting me work for him part-time. He says I'm really good. I'm currently working in landscaping. He says I have a lot of potential when I've mostly heard the opposite. He makes me feel good about myself, just like my girlfriend. She always roots for me and says I can do better if I just try. Anyways, her parents have never liked me or wanted me around. I'm not even allowed to come over to their place. In fact, they don't want me involved with this baby at all. They've talked to me without my girlfriend around and pretty much begged me to just get lost. They think my girlfriend and the baby will be better off without me. I don't know if they're wrong or if they're right. right. My foster parents say that they're wrong. My girlfriend has cried a few times. She's honestly scared. She's begged me not to leave and to help her. I want to help and take care of her. I've promised her that I'd be with her no matter what. Her parents pretty much want to adopt the baby and take responsibility for it. The problem with this is they wouldn't let me around. I think in some ways it's better, but both me and my girlfriend want to be involved. I know that they would let her help and do whatever, but I don't think I would ever get to see my baby, and that just doesn't sit right with me. Her parents want me to get rid of my rights to my child. They said that they'll send me pictures and stuff, and they even backtracked and said if I do sign them away, they'll let me visit sometimes. My foster parents think they're bluffing and just want me out of the picture, and in fact, they say I shouldn't sign anything, and to that end, I absolutely agree. I just want my girlfriend's parents to see me in a different light, and that I'm trying. I'm not a bad guy. I want what's best for my girlfriend and the baby. My foster parents say as long as I'm doing my best and trying hard, then that's what matters. I genuinely, desperately want my girlfriend's parents to like me, and I want them to want me around. I don't want them to think I'm the worst thing that's ever happened to her. How do I prove them wrong? What should I do? I think the first thing you need to realize is that this is not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in 4 years. It's not going to happen in 10 years. It's going to happen slowly over time. And the best way to do that is to be an amazing dad and an amazing partner to your girlfriend. You need to realize that you made a serious decision by spending quality time with your girlfriend. And sure, you want to be involved and you want to be helping out with the baby, but I think you need to realize that you are now an adult. Like, you just fast-tracked all the way up to being an adult in this situation, and you have a kid on the way. And honestly, actions are going to speak a lot louder than words. So whichever way you decide to go, I really hope it works out the best for you and your girlfriend. Because with a baby on the way, considering how young both of you really are, I really think you're both going to need as much help as you can possibly get. My boyfriend thinks I have inappropriate emotional reactions and feels the need to correct me all the time, and now I seriously don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I have been together for almost 2 years. Our relationship has been good up to this point. However, the past 2 months, he's been doing weird things. He will supposedly test me just to see what my emotional response will be to different situations, and apparently I'm failing these tests and not reacting how he thinks I should. For example, he will call me to tell me that he's going to a friend's house for a few hours before he comes home. I'll tell him something along the lines of, okay, well, thanks for letting me know, and he thinks that this is the wrong response because it's not emotional enough. He feels like I should be upset that he's not spending that time with me. Same thing when he took a trip to visit a friend. I told him to have fun and tell his friend I said hi. He thought that I should be upset and that I should be crying, asking him not to go, and calling him every few hours while he was gone. He thinks that my incorrect responses are a sign that I don't love him and that I'm not invested in the relationship. He started giving me the silent treatment when he's upset about something, and I usually let him have his silence for a little bit and hope that he'll just come out of it and say what's wrong. But that honestly doesn't happen. I instead have to acknowledge that he's upset and giving me the silent treatment. To break the silence and get the conversation going, I'll say something like, okay, you're obviously upset about something. Are you going to tell me what it is so we can talk about it and resolve the issue? And every single time, his response has always been, you're a smart girl, figure it out. This response just seems really dumb on multiple levels. It doesn't resolve anything. It essentially cuts off any discussion that could happen, and it's said to antagonize me. But I don't play into it, and I just tell him, okay, you're not ready to talk, that's fine. I'm going to continue what I'm doing and enjoying myself. When you're ready to talk, let me know and we can resolve this. Then I just continue on with whatever I was doing. He gets upset with these responses because they are the correct reactions. According to him, I'm supposed to be upset. I'm supposed to keep asking him what's wrong, asking him what I could do to fix the situation, and maybe even start crying. But I'm not doing any of that stuff. He thinks that I'm emotionally stunted and that I need to work on developing the right responses. I've told him that his tests are causing unnecessary strains in our relationship. I've also tried to talk to him about what prompted this change, but he gives me the same line of saying, you're a smart girl, figure it out. I honestly don't feel there's anything wrong with how I'm reacting, but the few friends that we have all agree with him. Are my emotional reactions wrong? I don't think they are, and it's honestly making me question everything, and I don't know what to do. Your boyfriend sounds like a narcissist. Honestly, this guy's 32 years old, and he feels the need to not only be manipulative, but also emotionally awful. Like, seriously, you could do a lot better than this. I don't know if you realize it, but you're doing something called gray rocking, where you don't feed into any of the antagonizing comments that a narcissist sends your way, and instead you just remain emotionless. And I can see why you do that, because your boyfriend is just awful. Like, seriously, who does that? Who tries to claim that your responses and your emotional reactions are incorrect? That's completely ridiculous. Honestly, in my opinion, you could do a lot better than this guy, because he sounds incredibly controlling and he sounds incredibly manipulative. And I seriously think you would be so much happier away from this narcissist. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, use the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out in the description below and subscribe.